Is this mic on? Ugh, I'm so bad with fucking technology.
Mommy, you said the F word.
Sorry, babe. Welcome to Mommy, You Said the F Word. I'm your host, Sarah Goldsboro. I've experienced firsthand the messy, magical, and sometimes maddening world of motherhood. We'll share some laughs and shed some tears as I dive deep into the highs and lows of life, confront loss, chat about career, fitness, creating a life you love, finding yourself again after kids, and who the fuck knows what else. This is a space where authenticity reigns supreme. So get ready to strip away the BS and get candid as fuck. At that point, I was trying to mend my relationship with my parents, specifically my dad. My dad really helped me during that time get back on my feet, as far as I was in a lot of debt at this point. I think I broke my lease on my apartment. You know, I wasn't going to work at some points because there was just so much drama in my life. I would call out of work. So I just wasn't making a lot of money at that point. And so I had found myself in a lot of debt. This motherfucker had also stolen money out of my bank account on the day that we were moving out of the apartment. He stole my bank card, went to the ATM, and cleared me out. So not only did he, cheat on me, but now he was, stealing money from me. So I was in a lot of debt at this point, and I moved home with my parents. There's so much that went on. I'm not gonna, go into like all of the details. Those were just like some things that stand out to me. But eventually we cut ties, and I did lose some weight, and I was starting to, I feel like, kind of get my life back in order a little bit. I was, living at my parents' house. I was working out. I was working and hanging out with my friends and, just doing things a normal 22, 23-year-old would be doing. And having him out of my life was definitely a plus already. So eventually I did start dating somebody else. And again, it was good at first, but I was still, I hadn't completely healed from this relationship. And I feel like looking back, I feel like I still had a lot of work to do on myself at the time that I met this other person. And so I went into this relationship, I think, just being like, anybody's going to be better than this last guy. So I think that I put up with things that I look back at now and I'm like, oh my God, how the fuck did I ever deal with that or accept that, but at the time it's like I had been through such horrible things with my last boyfriend that the things that this other guy, was doing, it didn't seem as bad, even though it was awful. He was quite a few years older than me, so he kind of always treated me like I was kind of young and dumb. And, he could be very critical. He could criticize me at times. And so anyway, I just remember being at his apartment this one night, and we were laying in bed and we were watching a show. And, early 2000s, you would watch a regular show on cable, and then at 10, 11 o'clock, the news would come on right after. So we were watching a show, hanging out, and I just remember the news popping up, and it was the local news. And I just remember seeing my ex-boyfriend's face on the TV. And I think I screamed out loud. It shook me so bad. And the guy that I was dating, that I was with, he was like, what? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, that's my ex-boyfriend. And the reason he was on the news is because there had been a girl that went to Johns Hopkins. I live in Baltimore, and there was, Johns Hopkins University is like a very prestigious, well-known university in Baltimore, and a female student there had been murdered around Christmas time. I believe it was over like winter break. She was found murdered in her apartment. And he was being charged for her murder. And, it had been, I think it had been a couple of weeks. They had said that they had some suspects, and then this news flash came on, and he had been actually charged with her murder. And I just lost it. I couldn't believe it. And so, this guy I was dating at the time, he was just like so like it was like he was so like nasty about it. Like, how could you date someone like that? Like, ew, like it's like I gave him the ick because I dated this guy. And I'm like, well, I wasn't with him like when he did this, and like I was in a really bad relationship with him, and like I got out because like he wasn't a good person, and like it's been a few years, and like I've been working on getting myself, back on track, and like how dare you like like put this on me. That's kind of how he was like making it seem, like, ew, like you dated this guy, like ill. Like I just remember him being so like nasty and condescending and judgmental like towards me because I dated this guy. And I mean, I could see a little bit like how that would be off-putting, but like I obviously like got out of the relationship. And so anyway, that just definitely put a strain on that relationship. And I had this way of like just always feeling like I needed to like prove myself to these like disgusting men, and like not feeling worthy of being loved, and not feeling secure in myself and confident in myself, and feeling like I needed to like better myself and then they would love me more. And I just had this pattern of doing this in relationships. And so anyway, long story short, he ended up being charged and was convicted of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison, which again, unfortunately, is only 25 years until they're eligible for parole, at least in his case. And so that was in 2004. So that is coming up in the next 4 years or so. So hopefully that won't happen. Like I said, I just don't think that, I just don't believe that he is capable of like truly changing who he is. He proved time and time again that, even when so many people during the course of our relationship and just me knowing him, so many people tried to help him. His friends, family took him in and fostered him, and, he stabbed them in the back, and then not literally, but he just, he would steal from them and, do horrible things behind their back. And then, my family tried to help him and was so kind and accepting and loving towards him. I tried to help him so much. It's just every person that tried to help him, he would just I don't think he had it in him to be a good person. He's just manipulative. He's a user, an abuser. And I don't believe that people like that can change. And the fact that he is bipolar, he would have to be on medication for the rest of his life to even like function somewhat normal, lead somewhat of a, normal life, because when he would go off of his medicine, he was a horrible person, and he ended up murdering somebody. So I pray that he never gets out of prison. And so, just being with him, really, I feel like it set me up for just so many years of future bad relationships and just not loving myself and lacking confidence in myself. I think because I started dating him at such a young age, it like formed like how I thought relationships, like what was acceptable in relationships, and just everything about it was unacceptable. But like, because it happened to me at such a young age, because I started dating him when I was 16, and it, off and on into my 20s, and then, I a few years later started dating somebody else. And I mean, he wasn't a horrible guy. He just didn't know how to commit. He cheated, and, I took him back so many times when I shouldn't have. And it really just like, I really like was brainwashed into thinking that like these men can like change, and like just, when they say like, I'll do better and I'll change. Like, I believed them over and over again. And I don't know why, when, nothing but the opposite had ever been shown to me. But I just felt deep down like not worthy, and, just my lacking so much confidence in myself. And so I look back at myself in these relationships, and it just makes me sad, because I do really feel like these relationships I was in really robbed me of a lot of joy that I could have had in my 20s, even going into my 30s. I mean, of course, I had so many good times with my friends, but I had so much anxiety when I was in these relationships that I don't think people even realized, because I just had a way of like pretending everything was okay all the time. And I would just like push things deep down. And, it just, people didn't realize what I was actually going through internally, because I would just mask it. And I really, it wasn't until I got out of that relationship, I felt like I could really breathe a sigh of relief, and I could really like see things more clearly. And I believe I told the story on another episode about how I finally severed ties with that relationship. And that relationship went off and on for about 9 years. And, that is how like fucked up I was from this like prior relationship, that for so many years I felt like, I was on this hamster wheel of like just toxic relationship and drama, and just couldn't get out of it. And there was some other relationships thrown in there, and, dating other people during the breakups. But like this one relationship was just like ongoing for like so many years. And just, I felt like I just was never going to get out of it, because again, he just had like such a strong hold on me for so many years, because I still was lacking so much self-confidence and self-worth. And finally, I was able to cut ties with him completely. Something switched in me, and I just knew that he was never going to change. And I was now, I was 30 or 31. And I was like, look, like I said to myself, I was like, if I don't get out of this relationship now, because I know it's not going anywhere, and I know this isn't like the person for me. If he were, we wouldn't be on this, this in this toxic, repetitive cycle for so long. And so I finally said to myself, like, if you don't get out of this relationship now, like, you're never going to give yourself a chance to, meet the person that's out there for you. And, I still, even though I had talked myself into thinking that I didn't want kids, because he talked me into that. He was older and he already had a son from a previous relationship. So he didn't want any more kids. So he, started making me believe that I didn't want kids. And, but I think I knew that I did deep down. And so I said, if I don't get out now, like, none of this, I'm never going to have any of this if I stay in this relationship. And plus, I was sick of it. I was sick of all of it. Just something snapped and I cut him off. I never talked to him again. And shortly after I truly severed ties with him, like, in my mind, I was like, there's no going back. I am done. Like, done. Shortly after that, within 6 months to a year, I started dating Larry. And I knew on like our first date that he was the one. I mean, I had never felt that way with a guy before. There was always confusion, and there was always like, well, does he like me, or like, doesn't he? Like, and there would be times when, like, I would call them and they wouldn't, respond right away. And it was always these like games. And like with my husband, with Larry, like, it wasn't like that. Like, he showed me like what love and what a relationship is supposed to look like and what it's supposed to feel like. I had never, ever felt that way with a guy before. Like, I tell him all the time, I'm like, I felt like from the very start of our relationship, he just always felt like home to me. And that's the best way I can describe it. I just felt so calm with him and so loved by him. I mean, we were obsessed with each other in the beginning of our relationship. And honestly, like, we're about to celebrate our 10-year wedding anniversary in September, and like, we're still like pretty obsessed with each other. And he always is like surprising me and doing nice things. And, I mean, we've had our rough patches, which I've also talked about, but it just, I had never experienced this before. I had never experienced a guy even being like, oh, like, I'll come to you. Like, I'll come to your apartment. You don't have to drive to come see me. Or like, I'll meet you halfway. Because like, we didn't live like super close to each other. So, oh, like, I'll meet you halfway. Like, you don't have to come all the way to me. And, or I'll drive. I'll pick you up. I'll pay for dinner. And he would, just do like such nice things for me, like right off the bat. And the way that he like treated me, and it was how it was supposed to be. He definitely wanted kids, and he was very close with like his niece and nephews, and he was just so good with kids. It's funny how like being with a guy who like wants those things and is like good with kids makes you start to want those things too. So I very quickly realized that, like, I did want a family with him. And so getting back to like what I said originally, like, so when I got this letter yesterday, it was like a blast from the past, but not in a good way. But it just, for a second, and I told my husband this, I said, I just feel icky, because just all those old emotions and feelings and those things never 100% go away. Like I definitely for a second I had to like process it because it like put me in a funk. Like I just felt like I said, I just told him I was like I just feel icky. I don't like the fact that he had or he found our address. I felt like that was just um like aggressive in and of itself. Like, oh, like because I never gave it to him. Nobody I know gave it to him. My mom didn't give it to him. So it's like, it's almost like, I'll find you, or like, I know where you live. Just like, it was just so disturbing to me and caught me off guard so bad. And, he sent me because apparently he just got his degree while he was in prison. He got his college degree. So he sent copies of his diploma to people with like a little handwritten letter attached to it, because my mom actually told me that she got one too. She told me that she got one. I talked to my mom on my way home from work yesterday. I call her a lot on my way home just to catch up with her, and she told me that he had sent her this. And then when I got home, I saw a big envelope sitting on my kitchen counter. My husband had brought in the mail and he didn't even like realize like who it was from or whatever. So when I saw it, I was like, I saw his name on the envelope and I was like, oh my God, how did he get our address? And then I, explained to my husband like what it was, and I opened it and he also like included a picture of himself, and I'm like, the audacity of this motherfucker that thinks that like after all this time that like people want to like know what's going on in his life. It's still giving narcissistic. It's still giving self-centeredness. It's still giving sociopath. It's giving all of that. And that's why I don't believe that he's changed. Because I mean, he has some family and it's like, fine, if you want to send things like that to your family, but why are you sending that kind of stuff to like an ex-girlfriend from 20 years ago who you weren't even with when you were incarcerated, and like her mother? Why are you sending this to us? Like, we don't care. Like, I want nothing. I don't want to know anything about you. You are not a part of my life. You are way in my past, and I'm trying to forget about that part of my past. It's just, it really just upset me and angered me, pissed me off so bad. And it was just, yeah, it was just like the audacity of it all. And, but my husband was like, he was just so, comforting to me. And I said, I apologized to him. I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know how he got our address. And like, this is like my worst nightmare. And like, I'm sorry that he's like sending me something. Like, obviously, like I want nothing to do with him. And I don't know how he got our address. And my husband was like, it's fine. Like, this is just, he has nothing else better to do with his time than to like find out your address and write you a letter. And, his life stopped in 2004 when he went to prison. And so like, you are one of the last people that he, I guess, was connected to. And, my husband was just like, I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, as much as like, I don't want to like, I'm just so mad about it and I hate him so much. It's just like my husband was like, I mean, like, what are you going to do? Like, but the fact that he was like supportive of me and just was like so comforting, that's just, I just, again, I'm just so grateful for my husband. I'm so grateful for my life that I have now because it took me a long time to get here. And there were many, many years where the life that I have now, if I would have looked into a crystal ball and seen my life that I have now, it would have seemed so far-fetched and so unattainable because that's just how dark it was at one point. And so what I just want to say to you is that, like, if you have gone through something like this, something traumatizing or, toxic relationships, abusive relationships, if you're in one now, like, things can change. You can leave the situation. You deserve so much more. You deserve everything that you want in life. And your life can look completely different than it does now. And you can get through whatever you're going through. There was times when I didn't think that, I was going to make it out of this relationship. It was that toxic and getting that abusive. He never hit me, but I was becoming abusive towards him because that's how much he angered me. And I think it was only a matter of time before he became abusive towards me. And so every time my mom wants to, start with, oh, like everybody deserves forgiveness. And like, I do sometimes feel bad for him. I said, Mom, feel bad for the girl that he murdered. And also keep this in mind. That could have been me. He killed her less than 2 years after we were living together. So if he had this in him, like it could have been me. And, would you feel the same way if it had been me? And do you think that, like, think about her and her family? And, that's also why I was so angry when he sent, his diploma, because the girl that he killed didn't get to graduate college. She was killed while she was in school at Johns Hopkins. She was going to be a doctor. She was smart and beautiful, and he took that from her. And so I will never, ever forgive him for that. And I just want nothing to do with him. And I think that's okay. I'm not angry. I'm not angry at what happened anymore. I do think, in a way, everything happens for a reason. And I don't know if I would be the strong, confident, take no shit type of person that I am now had I not gone through these things. I think life gives you lessons, and, things do happen for a reason. But I think it's also okay to, have boundaries and say, I choose not to forgive this person for what they did because, especially in this situation, whether her family has forgiven him or not, I choose not to forgive him because I think that, he took away such an innocent, beautiful person, and she didn't deserve that. And so, he deserves to live the rest of his life where he is. That's what, that is the path that he chose. And I believe that is where he belongs. So with that being said, thank you for listening to this episode. I know it was a lot, but I think it's important to, I try to connect with my listeners in a just always very open, authentic way. And I have been through some shit in my life, and I am open about it. I'm not ashamed of anything that I've been through. I've learned from it, and I try to, just always share what I've been through in hopes that like it'll help somebody maybe get through something that they're going through, and just motivate you to, just be the strongest, healthiest, best version of yourself that you can be. And sometimes it takes a while to get there, but you can definitely do it. And, just give yourself patience and grace, and, just love yourself, even just a little bit if you can. If you struggle with that, I've struggled with loving myself in the past, but once you can look yourself in the mirror and say, like, I love you and you deserve better than this, that's when your life will start to change. So thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to sharing more with you, and always feel free to reach out to me. I would love to hear your perspectives and stories, and I am always here to listen, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.
Thank you so much for listening. Show me some love by sharing this episode, and be the first to know when new episodes drop by following the show wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe on YouTube and follow me on social media at Mommy You Said the F Word.